Okay, looks like it's 10:30. So good morning. Welcome to the 10:30 session. Gradually you build, suddenly you have a business. If you could try to hold your questions till the end, that'd be great, but we're checking the chat box. So if you have something come up, we will certainly be looking for that as well. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Ashton.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. If you were on my last little call there, welcome back. And this is our first time to meet. How's it going? Super grateful to get to share with you here today. Just so you know, I am one of you. Your struggles and strife and joy and fulfillment and satisfaction, I experience all that every single day, just like you do as well. I am a real estate agent. I am on listing appointments daily. I'm working with buyers daily. I'm putting on lot developments daily. Everything, I always kind of begin every dialogue with the information that I'm bringing to you in the room today is not, it's not like I quit the business and I just became a speaker. I do what you do every single day. And so last week I had to give up huge commissions in order to make a deal work. We had to have a HVAC guy out on a property on a Saturday because the line froze up on a deal. All of these things that you deal with, I deal with as well. So I say I stand with you in solidarity of what it means to be a real estate agent. But I really, more than anything, want to bring to the room today an energy, a way of seeing the world, a way for you to leave this conversation, for you to find more sustainability, more predictability, and more profitability in your business. I have found, I coach 3 agents every quarter. I have found the number one thing we are always talking about is this isn't sustainable. The rate at which I'm living my life and my business is not sustainable. I don't think I can keep selling this amount of homes. I don't think I can keep spending this amount of money on whatever. Sustainability. Can we do what we're doing tomorrow with joy and zest and rest and peace? Heck, let's talk about that for a bit. Can we? And I found so many agents, they just burn the candle at both ends because they think that everything matters equally in our business. And those of us that have parted the veil, penetrated illusion, touched reality, we now know there's very few things that matter in business, and especially from the standpoint of being a real estate agent. So I want to talk about that today. And so I share that with you, that my heart is to also bring you predictability. Like instead of months of revenue doing this and then that, I made this much in July, that much in August, this month and much in September, this much in October. What if you could build a baseline of predictability in our business? Could that bring you some joy, peace, and rest? My assumption is it could. It's brought me that. And lastly, profitability. This business is too hard, too difficult, too challenging, too stressful for you to not be making a living and making a good one at that. And so that's really the heartbeat behind this conversation today of gradually you build and suddenly you have a business. This topic today is very bird's eye view above you and your business. It's almost like I'm going to introduce you to some thoughts that you need to be having. I want you to almost look above yourself, 30,000 foot level, and go, what am I doing on a daily basis? Am I doing stuff that matters? Am I a meaningful specific, or am I a wandering generality? And I would assume that everywhere I share those words, and those are Zig Ziglar's words, not mine, wandering generality versus meaningful specific, we know that the meaningful specific life is sustainable, predictable, and profitable. We know the wandering generality life is not sustainable, is not predictable, and more often than not is not profitable. So that's where we're going today. This is where we're headed, and let's see where we can go. This is not a beer, by the way. It's a Topo Chico. Just throwing that out there. 2 guiding beliefs. So, 2 guiding beliefs. I share these words with people everywhere I speak. And the first sentence is this. It's one of my favorite quotes ever. To see is to forget the name of the thing one sees. To see is to forget the name of the thing one sees. To forget the narrative of the thing one sees, to predict the story that I'm laying over the scenario that I see, to actually see, to penetrate illusion and touch reality, I got to forget the name. And so when we talk about your business, people ask you all the time, hey, how's your business? How's your business going? I've heard the real estate market's great. How's your business? That's small talk. They're asking you that, right? And we're using this phrase, my business. But what I want you to do is drop that and really think about, how am I showing up tastefully in people's lives? Am I the expert that people think about in the marketplace? When people think of real estate, is it me that they think of? How am I relationally connected in my marketplace? Because the truth is, the degree to which your business is growing or is sustainable, predictable, and profitable, that is all contingent on the health of your relationships, on you tastefully showing up in people's lives and weaving your story in and out of their story, so that when the time comes for them to think about real estate, it's you that they think of, or it's you that they recommend to somebody. I mean, I could stop the call right now and just say, hey, to see is to forget the name of the thing one sees. When we talk about your business, we're talking about the health of your relationships in the marketplace. The next quote is this. Right there, and there's that quote too, because the health of your business is directly connected to the health of your relationships. The next quote is this: the purpose of life is to truly live before you die. But the purpose of business is to fund that truly perfect life. So the thing that I'm going to bring into the room this morning is not so much to get you more money, more things, and more stuff. The thing that I want to bring into the conversation this morning is that the purpose of your business is to fund this thing that you call life, this thing that you get jazzed about, this thing that you can enjoy. Because we will look back at our lives and our businesses, either the end of today, the end of this week, the end of this month, the end of your career or life. You're going to look backwards and you're going to ask yourself one of 2 questions. You're going to say one of 2 things. Either I'm glad I did, or I wish I had. I'm glad I did, or I wish I had. And I think that the dialogue that we will have today will help you get to that place where you can say, I'm glad that I did. So, why this conversation? Why the conversation of gradually then suddenly? I always want to share with everyone my personal story of transformation in our business and what happened to me in 2012. So I had a goal to sell 100 houses by myself in 2012. Actually, it may have been 120. It was a ridiculous number. I didn't have an assistant. I didn't have a team. I had a car and basically a life that I gave away for many years to get to a place where I was doing 100 transactions a year. And so one thing that happened to me was in 2012, there came a day where I just couldn't get out of bed. I literally was physically depleted, ended up finding out months later that I was suffering from this thing called adrenal fatigue, which basically was like the body doesn't have adrenaline anymore. It's burned it all up. And I thought that everything mattered equally in our business. I need to have the same amount of focus on my rental leads as I did my listing leads. I need to have more open houses. I need to spend more marketing dollars. I need to do more, just keep going. This lasted about 18 months. Somewhere in the vicinity of October of 2013, I finally had a space where I was ready to hear whatever message was trying to get through to me. And I'd been sick. I was battling all sorts of health issues. And while on the outside, it looked like my life was changing a bit. I wasn't taking as many appointments. I wasn't doing as much on the outside as I was. The truth is, on the inside, it hadn't changed. The narrative and the story that I still had was, I produce, therefore I am. My goal was to be the greatest real estate agent in the history of Wichita Falls, Texas. Just full disclosure. I mean, that was my pursuit at that age. And then one day, the phrase came over me, and I have shifted my life to be about this sentence. I've made my family about this sentence. I've made my business about this sentence. I've made my own being about this sentence. And it was, Ashton, your days need to be more and more about less and less. You think that everything matters equally. And the truth is, if you would just look at your business, if you would just look at your life, if you would just learn how to be a little bit more present and intentional, you would see that all of these things that you focus on can get narrowed down very quickly. And so I started looking at my own business, and I started seeing that I went back year after year after year, and I looked and I was like, my goodness, about 70 to 80% of the time I got a phone call, it was a come list me call, or I got a phone call that was a recommendation from someone who they said to call me. And I started to have this huge aha that 80% of the time my phone was ringing, it was because people trusted me. And so this whole paradigm shift happened in my business, where the question became, what are you doing on a daily business to build trust? Because gradually you build trust. Suddenly you have a sustainable, predictable, profitable business. Trust is the currency that we exchange. Well, what is trust? Trust is just tastefully showing up in people's lives, giving them relevant information that they need, and so that when the time comes for them to intersect the marketplace, it's us that they think about. And so the dialogue this morning that we're about to get into is, what are the small, hidden, sometimes never noticed, overlooked, and unseen things that you need to be doing? But when they are done intentionally and for the individual customer, beautiful things happen. Beautiful things happen. So I don't want to just talk to you about more money and more things and more stuff. I want to get you to meaning, freedom, and fulfillment. I want to get you to sustainability, predictability, and profitability. And we begin with this number, 1440, 1,440 minutes. This has been called the great equalizer by many. If you're familiar with the work of Jay Papasan, he says this. And this is the deal. This is how many minutes you have in a day. Now, if you sleep 8 hours, you actually have less than 1,000 minutes. And sometimes, if you think about it, the first thing you thought when your feet hit the floor today was, I have 1,000 things I have to do today. Here's the truth. You don't even have 1,000 minutes. Now, I realize I have 1,000 things to do today. I realize the metaphor that is in life. But how much of us have that narrative, that overwhelming, consistent story and narrative in the back of our minds of, I got so much to do, so much to do, so much to do. And the introduction that I want us to have today, I believe where sustainability, predictability, and profitability converge in our lives is when we let go of that narrative and we go, yeah, there's a lot I could do, but there's only very few things I should do. And this is how many minutes Warren Buffett has. This is how many minutes Dustin Johnson has. This is how many minutes the President of the United States has. This is how many minutes everyone you know has. The question is, how will you use yours? Will you be a wandering generality, or will you be a meaningful specific? This is why every single day the playing field is the same for those of us that will choose a way of intentionality as being the way and the bedrock way that we operate in our business. So the truth is, you can't manage time. Managing time is impossible. What you can do is manage yourself. You cannot tell the sun to pause at high noon and you'll be back after you go run some errands. Time is moving. And so I've had a great aha as of late, is that it's not that I don't have enough time. It's actually I don't have enough energy. There's only so much energy I can give myself to on a daily basis. And my most frustrating, tiring days are when I give my energy to everything. And my most energized, fulfilling days are when I give my energy to very few things. And that's the great introduction to Gradually You Build, Suddenly You Have a Business. And so I like to think of it through the lens of the law of the harvest. And the law of the harvest, it just states this: something has to be planted in order for something to be harvested. Something has to be sown in order for there to be a harvest. You can't fake out the physics of reality that we live and exist in. And so many of us, we get frustrated with agents that we see, my gosh, where's all this business coming from? I will tell you, it's coming from intentionality. It's coming from them sowing seeds of trust and relationship in the marketplace. It's coming for them intentionally getting out of bed and going, there's 100 things I should do today. These are the 3 things I'm going to do today. I'm willing to go all in on the law of the law of generation, the lead generation, which is the law of the harvest. Boy, I am tongue-tied this morning. So what we do when we pursue the law of the harvest through the lens of lead generation is we sow with contribution and service today, and we harvest with sales tomorrow. I'll repeat that again. We sow with contribution and service today so that we can harvest sales tomorrow. So I want you to think of clients that you're currently working with. And normally when I'm in a room with all you guys, I kind of go around the room and I say, okay, raise your hand if you have taken a listing or you currently have a property under contract, someone you're actively working with. Raise your hand and tell me, how did you cross paths with this person? And the stories are always amazing. I've had people say, well, I door knocked, or I hosted an open house, or I listed a home and I sent out some handwritten notes to some people. I've had people say, I sat next to someone in geometry 40 years ago, and now their son is buying a house, and I've been a friend with them for 40 years. I've had people say, I go to Bible study with this person for the last 15 years, and they sent their niece my way. What I want you to think about when you think about these clients that you're working with is, I would bet, now we can always be wrong on this, but I would bet you that 9 out of 10 of those people that you're thinking about right now are seeds that were planted sometimes months, more oftentimes years ago, that have now germinated into something interesting that we call someone looking to buy or sell real estate in whatever market you live in. Take the person that sat next to someone in geometry 40 years ago, and now their son wants to buy a house. 40 years ago, they didn't even know they were planting a seed of friendship, and that 40 years later, it bloomed into an opportunity for them. And so when I coach agents, I am always pleading with them to get to understand the electricity that is the moment of their days. That opportunity is oozing everywhere. If you realize all of these people that you've been entrusted, these moments, these sacred, beautiful moments of people, places, moments, they're all packed with possibility if you will be tasteful. and show up from a place of trust and contribution and be in those moments. I am not asking you to scream from the mountaintops, Madison, Wisconsin, I'm a real estate agent. What I am asking you to do is find the little hidden moments of your life and your business and tastefully weave your story in and out of those stories so that when the time comes for people to think about real estate business, it's you that they think of or you that they recommend. So here's the business model. If you want to know the business model for life and business or for your real estate business, it's to get in the path and stay in the path of people's stories long enough to find yourself in the path of their business. There it is. So you don't show up to the office, cross your fingers, and hope Lady Luck is on your side. What you do is you show up to the office every day and you think, how can I weave my story in and out of other people's stories? How can I tastefully show up in people's lives with some relevance? How can I not be spam in someone's lives? Instead of screaming, here's my latest open house, how do I just show up and go, here, I made this for you. Here's a little tidbit of the market that may mean something for you. Here's something that's happening on your block. This is how we find ourselves in businesses that are sustainable, predictable, and profitable. So I introduce people all the time. If you've ever been in one of my sessions before, you're probably like, oh, here he goes again. I'm a bit of a one-trick pony with this thing that I call the 60 daily points of rhythm. And if you're a math major, immediately you're looking at this slide and you're going, well, I put 25 and 25 and 5 together, and that does not equal 60. You are correct. We'll get to that here in a minute. The 25 relationship building calls, the 25 prospecting emails, and the 5 handwritten notes of gratitude, those are 55 out of a potential 60 points that you could do. And I tell people that, like, if you don't have a list of, if you haven't built a database that has well over 100 people in it, you may need to go find something else to do, because this is all about database management, building that database and letting people, and finding a way to weave your story in and out of those stories in that database. But if we go to this next slide here, you're going to see that there's all sorts of things that you can do that can get you to 60 points. Now, let me also say this. Don't let the number 60 overwhelm you. For some of us on the call, if we just started at 5 points of rhythm, I'm going to make 2 phone calls. I'm going to send 2 intentional emails, and I'm going to write 1 handwritten note. That may be a quantum leap for what you've been doing recently. What I want to do is just say, hey, it's not about the number, it's about the rhythm. It's about finding a way to tastefully show up in people's lives. And then you've got these other things that you can earn business from: an offer written, an offer accepted, a listing signed, a closing appointment, going to lunch with someone that's in your sphere of influence, a client, a lead. All of those things, you're building trust. You're planting the seeds of trust. And so I couldn't care less about the number 60. For me, in my markets that I work in, 60 kind of is the number that I've just found. If I'm not focused on that, I'm not going to have enough hooks out in the water to catch the fish that I want to catch. But if I look back on my life and business and reflect on, how did I get to sustainability, predictability, and profitability? How do I get to the end of the year and go, I'm glad I did, in lieu of saying, I wish I had? It's this slide right here. It's this slide right here. And so I am willing to go all in on the reality of what this looks like. And so I want to chat through kind of what it looks like for me on a daily basis, for you guys to see, just kind of peek behind the veil and come to understand what I'm doing. So when it comes to lead generation, I have some rules. The rules are this. Rule number 1, it has to be consistent. I don't want my clientele or my sphere of influence or my database to feel like, oh, that was a random email from Ashton. I want to consistently be the voice of trust and expertise in the marketplace. I also want to be persistent. I also want them to know I'm hungry to earn your business. I made that call a couple weeks ago. This guy, I had heard he was looking at houses, and I called him and I said, hey, I've heard that you're looking at homes with somebody, and that's okay. We all have a choice, but I want you to know I'm hungry to earn your business, and if there's a way for me to do that, please let me know. But the most important, even more important than being consistent and persistent, is that it has to be relevant. And what do I mean by relevant? What I mean is this: we cannot be communicating to our databases the overall State of the Union address for our marketplaces. Oh, the market's up 30%. The zip code's up 20%. The zip code's down 15%. If you want to be heard, you need to learn how to speak not what's happening in someone's city, not what's happening in someone's zip code, but what is happening in their neighborhood. Because the rest of the world is zigging. But if you want to be heard, if you want to leave the world of spam, you have to zag and bring something that you present to the person that receives it as a gift of, here, I made this for you. I made this with intentionality. I made this with trust. I made this to be a contribution. I made this to add value to your life. And when that happens, you leave the space of being spam and you actually get heard. You know, the numbers change all the time, like 3,000, 5,000, 10,000, probably somewhere in the realm of 3,500 to 5,000 times a day, some type of advertisement crosses your eyes. You think about your inbox, you think about your text messages, you think about your social media streams, you think about billboards, you think about television, you think about radio, and you think about print media, and you are being bombarded with spam all of the time. But when someone shows up and says, here, I made this for you. I could tell you the city stats. I could tell you that the city's up 20%, but I just actually want to talk to you about the 10 houses that live around you. That, I believe, is the next great leap. If you want to know what marketing looks like in the future, it looks like education. I don't think I've ever found a way to say it that way. There needs to be a quote in here somewhere. If you want to know what marketing is going to be from here on out, it's going to be education, providing people relevant content that matters to them, that they can use to help make them make better decisions. If you can be that person in the marketplace, trust me, you will be building a business that doesn't chase leads, that attracts. You will be building a business that attracts people rather than chases people. And I think that's what we're all after. So rule number 1 of lead generation: your message must match your market. Your message must match your market. If you're just sending out random emails that go, hey, you want to look at houses this weekend, that doesn't work. But maybe you're running an online buyer program, Boomtown, Tiger Leads, Realtor.com, Zillow, or whatever. What happens when you look at every house they've looked at? I know you've got access to the data. And you go, hey, on Friday between 1 and 4 o'clock, I'm available to show you this property if you would like to see it. I noticed you favorited these 7 homes. Here's the information on them. Here's the average utilities. Here's the seller's disclosures, whatever. When you start showing up like that, that's when you start to build trust. And that's when people can actually hear what you're trying to convey to them. So here's some simple tools that I use. When it comes to lead generation, I have the most basic Evernote file that's just called buyers. That's all it's called. And if I've shown you a property in the last 24 months, doesn't matter when it was or what it was, I have your profile on there. It says John Bernard, looking for a house on a minimum of 50 acres, looking to spend somewhere between $400,000 and $1 million. I'm going to make sure that John is always getting information that's like that. The IDX system that I also operate, I can click a button and see last logins. I can see the people that have all logged in the last 24 hours and really communicate with them in a tasteful way. And then I do this MLS drip where I copy myself on specific things that I know people are looking at. So let's say they want to live in Badger Ranch or Lake Wellington or Hidden Valley or wherever they want to be. I want to make sure that the moment those properties hit the market, not only are they getting an email, but I'm getting an email in real time. So I can then pull out the email and go, hey, John, I just sent this to you. Is there anything that I can answer? Is there anything that you want to know about that? And so forth. So just know that lead generation, it can be super simple. Evernote is literally a digital notebook. That's all it is. And I literally have one that's called buyers. I have one that's called sellers. I have one that's called potential sellers on listing appointments I've gone on. Don't overcomplicate this Don't overcomplicate this with yourself. Copy yourself on automated emails from the MLS. That's what I just talked about. Look, if you've got people that you know are so niche focused, they want to be on a golf course, they got to have land, they want to have riverfront access, make it to where these emails come to you and they say things like, house on riverfront for John, and you just mark in the MLS that it has to have river frontage. Now, 9 out of 10 times, these listings are not going to fit what they're looking for, but that's not the point. The point is you are showing up with relevant information to people. We talk a lot about consistent lead generation for buyers. I also want to talk about consistent lead generation for sellers. And one of the things that I think we all should be doing is providing unsolicited CMAs to our sphere of influence. So what does that look like? Well, basically for me, about twice a year, I have a list. I have another list in my Evernote file, and it's called my top 100. And those are the top 100 people in my business that have sent business my way, or I want to earn their business. They're movers and shakers in the marketplace. They're the mayor. They're the owners of title companies. They're the bankers. They're the physicians. There's people that I just want to be that tasteful, relevant presence in their lives. I'm always showing up, consistently offering these home evaluations. Now, I don't walk in there and say, here's what your house is worth. But what I do send them are things like, hey, just want to share with you some of the activity that's been going on in your neighborhood. And I take it you're probably not looking to sell today. But perhaps maybe you know someone that's looking to be your neighbor. If I could be a resource for any of those people, please let me know. Or maybe you are thinking about selling. And if you are, I'd love to set up a dialogue and help be that resource for you. I'm finding that so many of my listing appointments are now 90 days before they hit the market. They want to get a feel. They want to kind of feel their way. And of course, depending on their personality or Enneagram type, you know, people make decisions. Typically, they're not that fast. And so I want to make sure that they're not getting educated by Zillow, but that they're getting educated by a face, by a personality, by a person in the marketplace that they can trust. Because I can tell you, it's too easy to go to Zillow now and just type in your address and go, oh, well, the Zestimate's X, and then they think that's true. Listen, that can be right at times. But I think we have to learn that our new job is education. Your job is to educate people. And as you learn how to educate them and show up in a tasteful, relevant way, tastefully abuse them with relevant information, weave your story in and out of their story, you find that over time, the phone starts ringing and you get those come list me calls. The next bullet point there, sending FYI notes about neighboring properties. Did this last week. I sent out 20 notes, had 2 closings last week, sent out 20 notes to the 10 houses that surrounded each of these homes. And it's so simple, but I just write, you may have noticed a sold sign in your neighborhood recently. I was a part of that transaction on the listing or the buyer's side. If you know anyone looking to be your neighbor, let me know. Or if you're looking for someone to be a resource for you, please let me know. Now, it's not normal that I get phone calls from those cards, but I can tell you that gradually you do things like this. And suddenly you start to see the phone ring. I remember the first time it worked for me. I had sold 3 homes on a street in like a 60-day period. And I thought, I need to just let that be known. Like, they've seen my signs, but I need to let that be known to people. And so I wrote 30 handwritten notes, went out to 30 different houses. I get a phone call for a listing that's 20 miles outside of the market that I work in. I go to this appointment, and the house had actually been on the market for 6 months. And I walk in, and the lady says, "I don't need to hear your spiel. Let me know where you think this needs to be priced. We want to get this house sold." It truly was a listing appointment that was less than 15 minutes. And I asked her, I said, "Hey, can you tell me how you and I met? Like, why am I here? How'd you get my name or number?" And she said, "Well, you sell every house in my neighborhood." I'm thinking, well, I don't sell houses out here. And I said, "Well, what's that neighborhood?" She said, "Well, I live off of Loma Linda." And the interesting thing was, those were the cards that I wrote the notes to the week before. And she had bought this house for her daughter 20 miles outside of town, owned it free and clear. We did a 10% price adjustment, got it in contract quickly. And literally I had invested no more than an hour's time in this. Or did I? Or did I have a couple hours invested because I wrote those notes and I sent those out? So I'm just inviting you, and just remember, success is not wide, it's narrow. Narrow is the path, and few people find it. There's so many things that you can be doing on a daily basis. But I believe that if you will just focus in on how you become the expert in the marketplace, how you build trust in the marketplace, everything else is meaningless or unnecessary until you get that figured out. There's a book that's called The Power of Who. It's written by a guy named Bob Bodine. And he basically makes this argument that you already know everyone you need to know to be successful. You already know. You just have to figure out how to package all those people together and allow them to be your little billboards out in the marketplace. I mean, think about this. Who's getting married? Who's thinking of downsizing? Who has a new role at work and could be looking to sell? Who's having a baby soon? Always think who. I mean, it feels like I'm going 1985 realtor on you, but at the end of the day, gosh, I feel that like these are the things that we're forgetting to do. And so we always have to be focused on who. I love the phone. I'm a big proponent of the phone. I always tell my agents that I coach, make sure you're on the phone with people every day. And a lot of them go, "Well, I don't know what to say." Say hello. Like, you don't have to reinvent friendship. Friendship, let me say this. People would rather have a friend than a realtor. And that probably needs to be like a class I teach. People would rather have a friend than a realtor, on just staying in tune with people. You could call to say, "Hey, I'm just checking in." You could call to say, "Hey, I noticed you came back to my website." You could call just to say hello and be friendly. I mean, it's the whole Stevie Wonder, right? "I just called to say I love you." Stop leading with agenda and just be human. Just connect with people. And I think what you will find is the more you can build the rhythm of just being human into what you do, somehow, some way, that seed germinates into whatever your business needs to be. Do I believe in direct mail? Yes. Do I believe in search engine optimization? Yes. Do I believe in having good Facebook, Instagram feeds? Yes. But you could take it all. And I would tell you, if you would just show up and be a friend to people, your business, everything that you would ever need in your business would happen. Another question is this: if you weren't in the real estate business, what do you wish someone would tell you? If you were not in the real estate business, what do you wish someone would tell you? And for me, I would wish someone would just tell me point blank what's happening in my neighborhood and on my block. I would love to know that data. That would help me make decisions on, should I remodel? Should I stay? Should I go? Should I call this agent or should I not? Those are the things that you need to be sharing in the marketplace. For those of you that have never heard of Slide Dial, Slide Dial is a way that I use the phone a lot. It's basically an app on your phone that allows you to connect directly to someone's voicemail. So maybe, I'm not even saying you have to be on the phone with people, but I am saying that you can at least drop a seed of humanity, a seed of intentionality, a seed of contribution, a seed of value, a seed of joy, a seed of gratitude. Hey, John, I just wanted to call and say thank you. Over the years, you've been a great friend to me and my business. If I can ever help you or anyone you know, let me know. That's a great voicemail to leave someone. Or, hey, Sarah, I drove by your house. Your landscaping this spring looks amazing. If there's anything I can ever do to help you or your friends, please let me know. These are just little things, but you got to look through a new set of eyes. You got to look through a set of eyes that doesn't just think about yourself, but actually looks for what is good, true, and beautiful in other people in their lives, and share it and talk about it. Because if there's going to be a market expert, it needs to be you. Here's some questions. Are you a memorable presence in people's lives? Or are you annoying? Are you spam? Are you in one ear and out the other? Are you not even noticed? Or are you coming from a place of contribution? If you're a student of Seth Godin, he always says, "Here, I made this for you." Like that's the MO that we have to present and bring to the world. Can you quickly give insight into market trends for what's happening in someone's neighborhood? Someone goes, "Hey, how's the business? How's the real estate business?" Well, we've thought about selling. If you don't know that info of their neighborhood, the next day they need to get emails, text messages, phone calls, and a package in the mail that educates them on that. Show up with speed, with relevance, give them that information. And then here's the last question. Are you doing your homework? Are you doing your homework? Are you showing up day after day, studying the market and reporting back? I think that's a big, big place of figuring out if you are being a memorable presence in people's lives. If you'll just do your homework, you're going to be okay. People always go, "I don't know what to say." Do your homework. You'll know what to say. I often use simple, fast text communication. If you have online lead generation sources, Boomtowns, Zillows, Realtor.coms, Trulias, things like that, make sure you have ways to text these people very quickly in real time. You can see here, this was a true text off my phone. "Amber, thank you for using thefallshomefinder.com. Can we set up any homes for you to preview? I'm looking at buying my first house and not really sure where to begin." Now, if I hadn't reached out quickly and in real time with some relevance, maybe we wouldn't have connected. But you have to learn, you have to be disciplined. This is saying you have to be intentional. If you are running a team, you better be having dialogues around intentionality and discipline with your agents. If they're not connecting with leads in a quick, fast form, you're probably going to see that you're not getting conversions. Here was a note I wrote somebody. I don't even remember what I wrote in this note, but look what this gal said. "Let Ashton Gustafson from the Bishop Realtor Group make your day. He just made mine." I mean, you can't buy marketing like that. And if you'll notice, my note cards, they don't even say realtor on there. Most of the time, unless it's a stranger that I'm talking to, I don't put a business card in there. I don't even talk about business. Why? Because people would rather have a friend than a real estate agent. And so people go, "Well, where do you get your note cards from?" There's so many places. Findstationery.com, Google Note Cards, moo.com, MOO.com. Those are super expensive, but they really pop when they deliver. Find a way to intentionally sow with seeds of intentionality. Find places to be grateful. There was the barista at Starbucks. I often share this story. One day, she told me she gave me the friends and family discount. So I knew she was in college. I knew she was still living at home. I knew her parents. So I just wrote her a quick note and I said, Hey, Betsy, thanks for being the best barista I know. You always make my day brighter. Fast forward 7 years later, she marries a guy who had already bought a house, but they were ready to sell their house. And who did they call? They called me. They didn't call the agent that he bought that house from. They called me, and I would almost guarantee you that something in that letter stuck with her enough for her to go, whenever I intersect the marketplace, he's who I'm going to use. And so all the time, little moments of gratitude are crossing our paths. But if we aren't disciplined to stop and look at those, then we're going to miss them. And so that's the invitation that I want to give you with handwritten notes is look out, be grateful, and then you'll find people to send these notes to. Because when you show up to the market every day and you report back to that sphere of influence, you begin to earn the space as the market expert. Most important word in that whole sentence is earn. You do not wake up and become the market expert. Gradually, you tastefully, with relevance, sow your story in and out of other people's stories. And suddenly, people start talking about you. You become remarkable. You become the market expert. People start sharing you. You don't have to share yourself. And we trust our friends. And we trust who we think is the expert. So when NAR every year goes, 80% of people only talk to one real estate agent when they listed their house. You want to know why? It's because that was their friend. And then you've got other people who maybe don't have a friend in the real estate business, but they're the 20%, the 20 to 30%. They are going to be calling someone that they trust. And you've got to build that trust by becoming the expert. And the way that you become the expert is by showing up with a relevant conversation for people to hear and not being spam. So I'll say this. If you're frustrated in your business, it's probably because of obscurity. And what do I mean by obscurity? I mean that people do not know who you are and what you do. You haven't tastefully shown up in a relevant way and become the voice of reason, the voice of expertise, the voice of trust. And oh, by the way, the realtor that happens to be the friend. And so if you're just floating around in obscurity and people don't know who you are, start with 10. Say, I'm going to make sure that 10 people in my marketplace know who I am and what I do in a tasteful way. Then take it to 50. Then take it to 100. Then take it to 1,000. Then take it to 2,000. And trust me, you will start to see that what happens is you're gradually building this business. And suddenly the phone rings and rings and rings and rings. I've given you quite a few of not to do items today. I want to give you some not to do things. Don't answer unknown numbers. If you have an appropriate voicemail, those should be able to get captured, and then you can contact them back at a better time. Don't work more to fix being overwhelmed. Don't think that more is the fix here. It's actually more and more about less and less. Addition by subtraction is the dialogue we're having here. Don't check and respond to email constantly. Tim Ferriss says that email is everyone else's agenda. Don't switch tasks constantly. Give yourself a 9 a.m. to 11 o'clock window to do everything that you know you must do in business. And if you do that, I promise you, 11 o'clock on, you're going to have more to do than you could ever imagine. Because multitasking, it doesn't do what you think it should do. It's actually a myth, and it's not beneficial. So let's go back to this law of the harvest. This idea that lucky farmer is an oxymoron, and something has to be planted. So there's no such thing. All the agents in your marketplace that are slammed with business, they're not lucky. They have sown with seeds of connection, of contribution, of trust and expertise. And over time, the market has taken them up on them. The law of the harvest says this: something's got to be planted, and then the universe takes over. We are not in control of how the summer turns into the fall, which turns into the winter, which turns into the spring. None of us controls that. But what we do control is the planting of seeds. And really, it's the law of compensation, which the law of compensation says this, that you get what you give. Whatever you are getting is coming to you by that which you have been giving. That's a universal principle. It's true, and you know that's true. And so Darren Hardy says this: the rhythm of daily action aligned with your goals creates the momentum that separates the dreamers from the super achievers. I love that quote, that daily rhythm aligned with your goals creates the momentum that you're after. But if you don't have a rhythm, I'm going to make 5 points of rhythm today, 10, 15, 20, 30, 60, whatever that number is. Name it, commit to it, become laser focused and intentional on it between 8 and 11 o'clock. And I promise you, you will see beautiful things happen. Because for me and my business, it looks like this: 60 times a day, 300 times a week, 15,600 times a year, I connect. That's all I do. And I like to do somewhere between 70 and 90 transactions a year on my own. And if you go back to this slide, maybe it takes 15,600 times of connecting in order to get 60, 70, 80 deals a year. What if that's true? And I think it is. And I think that my hope for you guys in this dialogue today is that you learn and see what it means to be a meaningful specific and not a wandering generality. Because when you connect and you build trust and you contribute and you freely share what you know in this points of rhythm conversation that we have here, beautiful things start to happen. And so Rory Vaden has a beautiful quote. He says, "Success is never owned, it's only rented, and the rent is due every day." And so I leave you with that beautiful idea. I hope that something here struck a chord with you. The last thing I want is you to be overworked and overwhelmed. What I'm longing for people to experience, both on this call, my team itself that I lead, and the agents that I coach across the country, is that they would have sustainable, predictable, profitable, enjoyable, satisfied, and fulfilled lives. And I think we get there by waking up to the reality that more and more about less and less is how we do it. So if I can answer any questions, I'm an open book, and thank you guys for listening today.
Wait a couple minutes, see if anybody has any questions. We have some time here.
I saw that someone said my connection was a little off. I hope that got corrected.
Yeah, I never heard any distortion, so I'm wondering if it was just the one, hopefully.
Okay. How big is my team? In Wichita Falls, Texas, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 agents. In Waco, Texas, I have 11 on my team.
And you said you like to do 70 to 90 transactions yourself. What does your team do?
We'll do, I mean, a few years ago, we did 400 transactions in a year. My teams are a bit smaller than they have been in the past. I've done that intentionally. Look, one thing to realize is more doesn't always equal more.
Right.
More can equal less at some point. And so we've really tried to just focus on profitability, which is hard to do, especially in really good markets like we've had. And so someone's here asking, at what point did I add my first teammate? I mean, I think the first hire always needs to be a part-time assistant just to help you address note cards, polish that database, set appointments for you, do those things that really it doesn't matter who does them as long as they get done, and keep you in the marketplace as long as you can, because you are your own magic. The moment you hand off your magic, your margins go down, different things start happening. And so, I would always say start with admin, and then from there go to start bringing agents on board. And maybe you start with a showing agent. Maybe you start with a part-time agent. The moment you start bringing on true team members, at least the way the markets seem to be, is significant dollars out of the transaction that come in start leaving the business and go into other people's pockets, which they should. That's how it should be. But you really want to protect those margins for as long as you can.
Interesting. You are your own magic. I love it.
Yeah, I need to start writing this stuff down. I said a couple of things today I haven't ever said before. I was like, whoa, I kind of like that.
Well, we recorded it, so you can go back.
That'd be a good session title. You are your own magic. Like that's
good.
That's pretty good. If Lisa's on here, Lisa, write that down. We may need to do that one.
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, here comes somebody.
Oh, looks like she sent too soon. Maybe not. Linda, nothing? Oh, there you go. Is your daily points of rhythm online?
Yeah, if you go to my website, you'll be able to find it there. Or if you go to this mkt.com/Ashton, you'll find where they can get it there. Can you repeat the content of your handwritten note after the sale? Oh yeah. Hey, you may have noticed a sold sign adjacent to your house recently at 123 Main Street. I helped bring the buyer. He's a new tennis coach at Midwestern State University, and please welcome him to the neighborhood. If you know anyone looking to be your neighbor, or if I can be a resource for you, please let me know. And don't overthink it. Just it's not what's said that matters in that note. It's that you are introducing yourself as the market expert. You are saying, I'm in the game. I'm part of the action around here. And when you do that, and I didn't say this, 80% of people only talk to one real estate agent. It's actually, studies show you can boot someone out of that realtor spot in someone's mind if you're showing up tastefully and consistently and with relevance. So they may have had someone that they bought a house from 20 years ago. And if they said, hey, name the agent, they would name that person. But they may not use that person if they see that someone else has a little bit more expertise on the block that they live in. And so that's why I think I'm always telling people, what I'm inviting you to do, no one will retweet it. No one's going to know about it. No one's going to talk about it other than the person that receives it. And I think we just love the dopamine hit of posting something on Facebook and getting someone to hit the like button, that what people really like is when a friend shows up and sends a note in the mail and says, I'm thankful for you. I'm grateful for you. I'm an expert in your neighborhood. I'm here to help you. Those are the true like buttons that you're never going to feel in real time, but they truly are the lifeblood of your business.
Like I said, they cultivate down the line at some point. 7 years later, after the barista, you'll feel
That's
it.
right. 100%. Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's great. Well, looks like it's 11:30, so thank you for your time. Great, as always, and for everybody showing up.
All right, everyone. Thanks for having me. If I can be a resource to you, feel free to send me an email, ashton@ashtongustafsson.com. And thank you for everything you guys did to put this on.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you.